Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro, hour number 2. Glad you could join us. And plenty much more to get to here the next few hours of this show. As I mentioned, the CES convention is in town. Steve Gregory will be joining us in studio, correspondent, talking a little bit about that. Is there a chance that Tom Brady could be a Raider? We'll get to this article in the RJ coming up in hour number 3 as well. But as we always have this gentleman in studio, always does a great job. It certainly has his views. Some agree, some disagree, but we always appreciate to get his point of view. And he's done a lot of great things for a lot of people here in Las Vegas. He is activist, Minister Stretch Sanders. Stretch, thank you so much for being here. You're looking sharp today, by the way.
Thank you for having me. This is my Wednesday close. Is today Wednesday or Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I normally come in on Wednesday?
Sometimes Tuesday or Wednesday. It fluctuates from time to time, but I want people to go on our YouTube page. Yeah. Right now you can see what Stretch, he's looking very sharp. Let's put it that way.
My Tuesday clothes.
Well, these are my everyday clothes. I just dress like a slob every day. So, but anyway, always a well-dressed man, Stretch.
Thank you guys for having me.
You're always a pleasure. So I want to start with what I was talking about last segment. I want to get your thoughts on this. A lot of people on the alt-right, a lot of people, evangelical Christians that call themselves, people of faith, God, and so on and so forth. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them want to praise Donald Trump in the same sentence. I think that's wrong. I think it sets a horrible precedent to even mention the word God and praising Donald Trump in the same sentence. A man who commits adultery left and right, goes after minorities, a man who has done a lot of bad things to a lot of people. There's no question, and said a lot of horrible things, going after POWs. The list goes on and on. So what do you make of that, Stretch? What do you make of people in the religious, world, particularly those on the alt-right, that use God and faith and then praise Donald Trump?
Well, I think we have freedom of speech, and everyone is entitled to express themselves. But I also think, too, that we have to also understand that religion is not what you profess, it's what you practice. And so a lot of those who we consider evangelicals or Christians who praise Trump, me personally, I would pose the question, are they considered Christians? Because a Christian is judged by the works. And so I think that a lot of times, a lot of us hide behind religion. We hide behind faith. And we do that. We typically do things like praise people who should not be praised. And unfortunately, that gives the religion a bad taste. So I would look at those individuals as, one bad apple don't spoil the bunch. So I wouldn't even give them as much credit to even consider them Christians because, number one, I don't know them personally. But also, number two, Donald Trump is definitely somebody who we're not in a position to condemn because we're not God. But at the end of the day, we definitely are in a position to criticize because of what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And, the Bible says judge righteously. And so we always say we're not supposed to judge. That's not true. We're supposed, because everybody judges, right? A judge is criticizing, but we're supposed to judge righteously. And, the same way last week people were criticizing Obama, I respect the fact that he was the first black president, right? But at the end of the day, I still have to be critical of the things he did and did not do.
Absolutely.
But we don't tend to see that of these pro,
they're
loyal,
biased.
right? They're very biased, and I think that's something that
and they lose credibility. When you're biased, you lose credibility. Stretch. I think we both agree on that. And you're right. You do have freedom of speech. You can say what you want. I just don't agree with them. Yeah. I don't agree with bringing up God into a conversation with Donald Trump. All right, Stretch. Speaking of disagreeing, let's talk a little bit about Colin Kaepernick. As you know, as I like to call him, General Salami. I like to call him that because I don't think he deserves any respect. Donald Trump obviously gave the okay for this strike that killed him and others, and taking a lot of flack for it. We don't know a lot of information. We don't know why, the who, what, when, where, why, that sort of stuff. They haven't given a lot of specifics. But I want to talk a little bit about Colin Kaepernick when it comes to this, because as you know, I'm not a Colin Kaepernick guy. I think he's an ignorant man. I think he says a lot of stupid things, and this just proves my point, and I want to get your thoughts on this, okay? So this is what Colin Kaepernick said after this strike. He said there is nothing new about American terrorist attacks against black and brown people for the expansion of American imperialism. America has always sanctioned black and brown bodies both at home and abroad. America military is the weapon wielded by American imperialism to enforce its policing and plundering of the non-white world. Okay, so Lindsey Graham, who I am not a big fan of, who I disagree with a lot, had something to say about the comments of Colin Kaepernick. Here's what he had to say about those remarks.
Yeah, he's a loser on and off the field. He has no idea what the Iranian regime has done to the region. He has no idea that they have 600 American deaths as a result of IEDs made in Iran, used in Iraq. It's un-American. He's a racist. If you're looking for racism in America, Mr. Kaepernick, look in the mirror. Your country's not the problem. It's the Iranians, and you're so blinded by your hatred of Trump that you can't see the difference between who we are and who the Ayatollah is. Pretty sad.
All right, so I don't agree with everything he said. I agree with some of what he said. But, Stretch, here's my issue with Kaepernick's comments, and then I want to get your response to it. I don't believe this attack had anything to do with this guy's skin color. He was a horrible person. Now, I'm not saying it was justified. We need to learn. But obviously, I don't feel bad for him. He was a horrible human being responsible for hundreds of Americans dying. He was a terrorist. He harbored terrorists. Why is Kaepernick talking about race when it comes to this strike on this guy? That's what I don't understand. It seems ignorant to me. What do you say?
Well, what he's doing, everything, race plays a role in everything, right? So we can talk about poverty, race plays a role. We can talk about economics, race plays a role because unfortunately,
even terrorists, race,
everything. But his point was not so much focusing on race. It was focusing on the fact that this is nothing new. Because a lot of us are like, oh, my God, we're panicking. America's doing this. It's almost like when Trump got elected. I literally saw folks tweeting, for the first time in history, we have a racist president. I literally read that on Twitter. And somebody commented and was like, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, every president who owned slaves, Richard Nixon.
You think Bill Clinton was racist?
Of course he was.
Why would you say that?
He was racist because of his policies. Racism is, like, once again, prejudice plus power. You don't have to wear a Klan's outfit to be racist. But when you lock up millions of black people, Bill Clinton destroyed millions of black households with the three strikes and you're outlaw. That's racism, right? Because when he took the man out the home, he destroyed the family. We know the value of the man. The man is the guidance, the leadership, the protection, the provision.
Even if he breaks the law, even if he breaks the law.
Let me ask you a question.
There has to be accountability with people.
White people commit more crimes than black people, but why are the prisons filled more with blacks?
What do you mean?
There's an attack statistically.
Show me the stat that says white people commit more crimes than black people.
There are more whites on earth than blacks in America, but we don't get the same time. White people get passes. Let's not forget, in Las Vegas, there was a man 2 years ago who was in court. He had a bunch of white supremacist tattoos on him. Mm-hmm. The judge allowed him to put on tattoo makeup. I read this in a review journal. Tattoo makeup, so the court will not come in biased and will not judge him by his tattoos. Have you ever saw in your life any black person or Hispanic person go into court and have the opportunity to put on makeup to cover their tattoos? Hell no.
That is a specific
that's every
instance
situation.
that I do not agree with.
White people always get the slap on the wrist opposed to black people. I'm not saying white people don't get punished.
But are you talking about the justice system, or when you say that white people commit more crimes than African Americans? I don't know if I agree with that.
You have no choice but to agree because it's factual. You have to understand, the crime that happens in the black communities, those are in pockets, right? We only make up 13% of the population. There are more white people on earth, as far as, when I say earth, I mean America, on American land. So white people do more crimes at a higher rate.
But if you take 1,000 white people and 1,000 African Americans, the stats don't back up your claim that white people commit more crime than black people. That's
we just get
factually
caught. We just get arrested.
But you're making that assumption.
There's not an assumption. White people commit more crimes than black people. The only difference is you get off and I don't.
But don't you think that's a gross assumption, what you're saying? You're
it's a factual
you're
assumption.
assuming that the law doesn't apply to white people, but it applies to black people. Is that what you're saying?
Of course, generally, understand. I'm not talking about individually.
But how can you know that across the country? You're making a claim across the country that if you take 100 or 1,000 white Caucasian people and 1,000 African Americans, you're saying white people are just more violent than black people. Isn't that the definition of racism, what you're saying?
If you have 100 white people and 100 black people and we do the same crime,
yes,
it is statistically proven that whites will get less time, if any time.
And how do you know that that's racism? How do you not know that maybe the African Americans are just committing more harsher crimes? Isn't that possible? Listen. Let's be fair on this. When it goes to the justice system, I agree with you. When you don't have money and you don't have fair representation, there's no question. I agree with you that there needs to be changes. I call it the injustice system.
Will you not say white people don't get treated better than black people?
In specific situations,
In every
that's
situation.
possible. No, not in every. Absolutely not.
In every situation.
Okay, when you say every situation, you're saying I treat white people different than black people, and I can look you in the eye right now and tell you that's not true.
But you have to understand. You have to do an understanding of understanding white supremacy and you as an individual.
If somebody is robbing the 7-Eleven, I don't care if they're white or black. I'm going to call 911. I don't care
But
what the color of their skin is.
I'm talking about, once again, because your callers, they're going to call in. They're going to be saying, that's not true. I'm talking about as a whole. I'm not speaking on
there are injustices.
you as an individual.
Listen, I'm
I'm saying if the masses of white people do crime and the masses of blacks, masses as a whole, if the masses, both races, do the same thing,
yes,
it's people who are black who are in prison literally for shooting at a dog.
Yeah.
And you got white people who literally, white cops who shot us in the back running.
There are no question.
And they're walking the streets right now.
There is no question that there are injustices, and I do believe that some of those injustices in the courtroom may be because of race. I'm not doubting that, but why do we have to go? And I'll open up the phone lines. What do you guys think about this? The minister, Stretch Sanders, is saying that he believes white people are committing more crimes than African Americans. What do you think about that? 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. My question to you is, what I just said, I agree that there are injustices out there. There are some racist cops out there. There are some racist judges out there. The justice system is not aligned to help African Americans. I agree with you on that. But
so
why?
Who is it aligned to help?
But my question to you is, why go to the extreme and say that white people are committing more crimes than black people? I just disagree with that sentiment.
Well, that's just one factor of my point. My other point, back to Colin Kaepernick, is what he's trying to show is that America has always used the militarization of men and women to attack innocent brown and black
but
people.
That's not the case in this situation, and that's what he's talking about. I understand, but and I will take some phone calls in a minute here at 257-5396. We're talking about this specific situation because that's what Kaepernick, that's what his response was to this specific situation. Make no mistake about it. I'm not defending Trump's actions. I want to get more information because I'm not sure it was justified. But with that being said, I don't feel bad for this guy. I don't give an F what the color of his skin was. He was a terrorist. He harbored terrorists. He killed hundreds of innocent Americans. Why are we talking about race when it comes to this guy? He is a terrorist. Why is Kaepernick, and he is talking about race. He's talking about white America. He's talking about these attacks against black and brown people, almost feeling, should we feel sorry for this guy? He killed innocent people. He's a terrorist, Stretch.
Well, I personally think that America and this nation, we need to embrace more peace and more love.
I agree.
I don't believe in war. I don't stand for war. All the money that's going into shipping and sending out innocent soldiers to go fight in a war and to go attack another group, and we've been doing this since the beginning of this country.
Stretch, we're on the same page.
And so
there.
by doing that,
we don't want an ill-advised war. I agree with you on that, but that's not what Kaepernick said. Listen,
that's his point, though.
But he didn't say that, though. See, listen, I'm going to go Trump on you here, okay? A lot of Trump supporters, when Trump says something ignorant and racist, they say, well, I believe this is what he meant to say. Stretch, that's what you're doing. You're taking his tweet and you're saying, well, I think he meant this. If he said that, then I wouldn't be criticizing him. We don't want an ill-advised war. We don't want to hurt innocent people. If he said that, we would not be talking about Colin Kaepernick. He didn't say that he played the race card.
But what's the problem with him playing the race card?
Because this attack had nothing to do with race. That's why.
Because the cards was already given. We're not playing the race card.
Do you truly? You're a smart guy, Stretch. I
respect you. We can't play the race card because we didn't create the meaning of the race.
But listen, I respect you. I know you're a smart guy. Do you truly believe that this guy was killed because of the color of his skin? You can't possibly believe that.
No, but that's not my point. I don't even have really much to say about the guy.
But that's Kaepernick's point.
But both of our points, any person who's enlightened, what we're doing is we're not focusing on that. We're focused on the fact that what America needs to be doing to be a better America. So his point is, this is nothing new because people are making memes and making this as a joke and not taking it serious. And so what he's trying to bring home, it's almost like he took a point, but he stripped away part of that meaning to explain, like almost like he took us around a scenic route to prove another point. So unfortunately, the way that you're receiving it is like,
well, I have to receive it that way.
He's distracting from the situation. What he's doing is he's trying to educate us on the fact that America has always, and he's not just referring to going to hurt. He's talking about just sending, majority of the military is black and brown people. He's talking about taking innocent people to go fight in a war.
I get it, but he says there is nothing new about American terrorist attacks against black and brown people. So he's making the reference to the fact that he believes this attack was because this guy was brown. Stretch Sanders, the minister, joining us in studio. We're taking your phone calls right now at 702-257-5396. Let's start off with Tony. Tony, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
I listen to you guys a lot.
Yep.
Brian, I tell you what, as far as terrorists and all that stuff goes, I can't really put Trump down on that, and for a guy like Stretch, who you give him a lot of credit to, so, tell him he's intelligent.
Well, I think he is, and he's done some good things.
This is not intelligent right here because whatever this Kaepernick's trying to stir up, I don't know, man. That ain't going to bring nobody together. This guy was a terrorist.
I agree.
He killed so many people, and now, there's more guys like that. But you know what? To say that nothing had to be done about this guy when we could have potentially had a lot of people dead.
Well, that's a different discussion. That's
right?
That's a different
Something
discussion.
had to be done about this guy, right?
Well, I'm not so sure I agree with that, Tony, because we're not getting all the details. We heard the same thing about Saddam Hussein. Well, something had to be done about that guy, and then we heard there were weapons of mass destruction, thousands of innocent.
No. Look, that was Bush. That was Bush.
Well,
These guys are all programmed.
Well, the same thing could. Tony, you know why I bring that up? The same thing could apply in this situation. Our intelligence could be.
But,
All right.
All I can say, the positive on Donald Trump. He went after the guy, leader ISIS, went after the leader, the second in command. Very nice. Then he goes after this guy. Very nice.
We don't know if it's very nice.
We did this because he was black is an ignorant statement.
Well, I don't agree with that, Tony. I don't agree with that, and I appreciate your sentiment. I don't think race had to do with it at all, but Stretch disagrees with me, and let's take some more of your phone calls. 257-5396. Stretch also said that pretty much every president has been a racist. I don't agree with that statement either, but we'll let Stretch respond to that. Let's go to Al. Al, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good.
I listen all the time, and I call in occasionally. I want to make 2 points. One, I think you're exactly right when you said that he's essentially doing what people do when Donald Trump does or says something. They try to analyze what he actually meant, and they try to justify it. And I think that's what Stretch is doing right now with this Kaepernick tweet. That's number one. Number two, he said something about Bill Clinton being a racist because of the 3 strikes you're out law. Well, he signed the law. Congress and Senate passed the law.
Yep.
He just signed it and made it official.
Right.
And then to say that they're disproportionately affected the black community with that law, is he saying that no white people have been affected by the 3 strikes you're out law?
Al, hang on the line.
Crimes,
yep, I hear
go
you.
to jail.
Al, hang on the line for a second. I want to let Stretch respond to that. Go ahead, Stretch.
The reality is, once again, we have to get to a point of healing, and healing and reconciliation comes with truth. And in order for us to heal as a nation, black, white, brown, red, and yellow coming together, we have to come together under the banner of truth. And unfortunately, those who have been blindsided with privilege, with white supremacy, with stereotypes, are not always going to agree with my position. And so when you sign something, to sign means that you consent to it. And so to say Bill Clinton is not a racist because he only signed on it, that proves my point even more. Because why would you sign something that you don't agree with? I'm not going to sign something if I don't agree with it. You sign to give consent.
I think that is a fair point. Al, go ahead and respond to that.
Well, the point isn't really it's you're either committing crimes or you're not. So if you commit crime 1, crime 2, guess what? There's a 3 strikes you're outlaw. Don't commit crime 3, or you will get locked up.
That's also a valid point. Stretch,
but it's not really valid because black people have been put in a position to commit crimes. When you go to areas where white people frequent, trailer parks, things like that, you don't see the same climate. Black people have been socially engineered due to cigarette billboards, liquor stores everywhere, liquor store billboards, crack cocaine being given to us, drugs being given to us, crime being given to us, our leaders being killed from us. What that has done is it's created a climate. Victor Hugo said wherever darkness is, crimes will be committed. And so what I'm saying is that America and white supremacy that controls America has created a climate of darkness. And unfortunately, the butt of that joke is black people and brown people.
Al, I appreciate the phone call. I would say to this, just because there's a billboard up doesn't mean you can do it. I think we're all adults and we all could make decisions for ourselves, and I think it comes to
But
responsibility.
not every adult was endured 400 years of slavery, brainwashing, and inferiority tactics.
To me, Stretch, and this is where I disagree with you. Slavery has absolutely nothing to do with an adult walking around today that looks at a billboard and says, "Oh, maybe I should drink," or "Oh, maybe I should smoke." Or if somebody walks and says, "Hey, let me give you some cocaine," you could say no and walk away. What does that have to do with slavery, something that happened 400 years ago?
Well, slavery was not just an action, it was a practice. So it wasn't like, you're a slave, okay, go about your business. No, slavery
Can't
was
you
a
just
practice.
say no, though? What about
anything that you practice can be passed down? Tradition can be passed down,
So
right?
you think if somebody
the
is doing
tactics of slavery were passed down to us, and so black people who are on cocaine, we think inferior. That's why we take these drugs.
So
we put these substances in our bodies because we are gods. But once again,
So why do white people do drugs and cocaine then?
I don't know. Because I'm not a part of that community to speak on that. See, unlike other communities, I don't tell other communities what they should be doing or why
But
they're
can
doing.
it be possible
I
that
speak
somebody
on my community because I'm from that community.
I understand, but can it be possible that an African American that does cocaine could just have a substance abuse problem and it has nothing to do with slavery?
Of course, that they have a substance abuse problem. For every action, there's a reaction. And we have to understand what caused that reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just wake up one day and say, I want to do cocaine. Even people who are white on drugs are not on drugs because they enjoy being on drugs. Any community that is suffering, something has caused that. All I know is I'm not a part of the white community, so I can't really state every root of that
All right,
problem.
I understand.
But I do know the causes of the black community, and the causes of that is slavery. That's a huge cause of us being where we are today.
All right, well, let's take some phone calls on that. What do you think? 257-5396. Stretch also said that he believes white people are committing more crimes than African Americans. Your thoughts on that? 257-5396. Let's try to sneak in another call here quickly. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you are next up on the Vegas Take. You're on with Stretch. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning, Stretch. Thanks for speaking truth to power. I just want to bring up one example of that kid. I believe it was in Arizona. He was a 16-year-old kid. He was drinking and driving. He killed 4 people. And they gave him, they exonerated him and said that he had some kind of, because he was a rich kid.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree with you.
And the kid killed 4 people, and they let him go.
There is
so
listen, let's be clear on this. As a white male, let's be clear on this. There is no question in my mind, because that was a kid of what some people say would be white privilege, is why he got off the way he did. He deserved probably, listen, I don't care what the color of his skin is. If you drive drunk and you kill 4 people, as far as I'm concerned, your life should be over. Spend the rest of your life in jail. So I'm with you on that.
But I think what the point Stretch is making, and I agree with you, Brian. I mean, look, I'm just saying what Stretch is saying is the fact that when you, like, even with Stop and Frisk in New York, they weren't targeting no one else but people of color. So even if you were walking down the block and you maybe had a joint on you, you got popped. You see what I'm saying?
No,
you
I understand.
doing nothing.
Mike, listen.
It's just an improportionate. And what Stretch is saying, he's just trying to make a point. Look, we're going to heal. But this Trump, he's making it worse.
I'm not defending. You know me, Mike, and you know I rarely do I ever defend Donald Trump, Mike. And listen, I appreciate your sentiments and your phone call, Stretch. When we come back from break, I want you to respond to Mike's comments because I think he made some valid points there. And listen, I've said it over and over again. I call it the injustice system. Our system certainly does not benefit minorities, people that do not have money. There's no question about that. I'm on your side, but I'm just not willing to go maybe as far as you're willing to go, but I'm interested in hearing your perspective, and I want to continue this conversation on the other side of the break. We have some other callers that are on the line. We have a few lines are open, 702-257-5396. Do you think white people commit more crimes than African Americans? Do you think that race played a role in this attack against Salami, General Salami, as I like to call him? Your phone call is coming up next with the Minister Stretch Sanders in studio, 702-257-5396. Otis, Taylor, Mike, Jim, Bob, we're going to get to all your phone calls when we come back. You're listening to The Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. Our very special guest in studio is the Minister Stretch Sanders. And, listen, we have people on this show all the time. I don't always agree with them, but I do have respect for you because I think you're passionate. I have respect for anybody that's passionate but also respectful. And I think you have done a lot of good things for people. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree on everything, but that's why we always welcome you here on the show, because I think it's an interesting discussion too, and it's an interesting debate, Stretch. Obviously, you made some comments. I'm just going to kind of review with people. We're talking about Colin Kaepernick. He said there's nothing new about American terrorist attacks against black and brown people in regards to the General Soleimani, who was executed by our president. He also went on to say America's always sanctioned and black and brown bodies, both at home and abroad. He made it a racial thing. We disagree on this. You're okay with his comments. I'm not. We're taking your phone calls, 702-257-5396. You also made some interesting comments about past presidents. You said every past president is a racist. So I want you to interact with some of the callers on that. And again, that number, 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off this segment with Taylor. Taylor, you're on with the minister. Thank you so much for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
First of all, I want to thank Stretch for coming on the program, and I also disagree with him, but I'm grateful that we can have this dialogue, and that's what makes this country great.
I agree. Yep. Thank you for that.
So, here's my thought, and I just wanted to bounce it off of you and Stretch and see what you guys think. I heard Stretch say a lot of the problems that plague the black community have to do with slavery and 400 years of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, Stretch, go ahead. Put your mic on. Go ahead. Press that blue button. Put your mic. There you go. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Stretch.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So, Stretch, you had mentioned that the black community has a lot of problems, and they can be found rooted in the fact that they were slaves for 400 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like cultures that face circumstances and outcomes. One is
Brother, you're breaking up a little bit.
Taylor, your phone's breaking up a little bit. Go ahead. All right. Put Taylor on hold, and we will try to get to his call. Hopefully, maybe he's on an Obama phone. Sorry, that was a horrible joke.
But just to expound on that,
yeah,
slavery is one of the things that plague our community. And what people have to understand is that it's easy for us to say, oh, that's not true. One thing I don't tell Jews that the Holocaust was not bad. I don't tell Jews that they should not be mad about the Holocaust. I don't tell Jews, well, black people endure slavery too. I don't tell Jews they should embrace Hitler or I don't tell Jewish people how to react to their pain.
Okay, but can I respond to that?
But what you tend to see is that the white community is always trying to tell us how to heal, when to heal, where to heal. Mm-hmm. That's not the white community's place. You cannot tell me you disagree with me telling you.
I would tell you
our community is plagued by slavery and the tactics of that, because that's stepping out of turn.
Here's what I would tell.
I respect everyone's suffering. Why can't we get the same?
I know you do. Okay, I'm Jewish. 6-7 million Jews died in the Holocaust. I would tell you the same thing I would tell any Jewish person, which is this. If I meet somebody that is from German descent, or heck, if I flew to Germany, I would not look at any of those people and blame them for what happened years ago during Nazi Germany. And the reason why I wouldn't do that is because I believe many of those people are not anti-Semitic.
But I guarantee you, if you went out there and you saw the Jewish people, you guys had proof that the Jewish community was not thriving due to the Holocaust. There will be movements taking place. There will be you guys asking for reparations. You'll be doing the same thing we're doing in America for the black community.
You know what I would
That's
tell?
a fact.
You know what I would tell those people?
That's why the Jewish community has had reparations.
Well, here's what I would tell those people if they were not thriving in Germany, which by my understanding is not happening. But if it was, hypothetically, I would say, listen, if you're not happy here in Germany and you don't think you're being treated fairly, then go to another country where you think you'll be treated better. So let me ask you this question. What other country other than the United States of America do you think an African-American could be treated better?
Well, I mean, Africa is obviously a continent. I know there are countries within Africa, but the reality is I try not to even focus on us leaving.
But you understand why I say that,
But if any group's going to leave, it's not going to be us. We built this country. Every community that's thriving in this community in this country is thriving off the blacks and black people. We built everything in this country. Matter of fact, we built civilization. So when people say, where would we want to go, it's not even a matter of where we want to go. It's the matter of those who are oppressing us have to leave. We aren't going nowhere.
What do you mean black people created civilization?
We created civilization.
What do you mean by that?
The first person on earth was a black person. Was the original man is a black man. All races come from the black man. We built this country. We built pyramids, civilization. I know we've been taught that Greek philosophy, there's no such thing as Greek philosophy. The Greeks took their knowledge from us. If you look at even England, how their royal guards wear those black hats with the big, those are statues and those are writings in Egypt of our people. We dress like that.
So
Everything that we have in our culture was taken from the European culture.
Well, let's see what the listeners out there think. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257-5396. By the way, we just had Taylor on the line, and his call dropped out, so I want to give him another opportunity to finish his thought. Taylor, go ahead. Thanks for calling back.
Hey, sorry about my phone, man.
That's okay.
These plans.
That's okay.
So anyway, I just wanted to say they compared, the problems they have to slavery, where you look at the Jews, and they've been slaves for thousands of years, yet there are many Jews who contribute in society, and they don't have the problems that plague the black community. So what I'm trying to say is just look in the mirror and realize this is the greatest country in the world. Stop blaming anything on anyone but yourself. Look in the mirror and decide what you got to do and be better. And that goes across the board. Black, white, brown, doesn't matter. This country's awesome, and people have been slaves for thousands of years. Look in the mirror. You're not a slave. Get to work. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Taylor. Why don't you respond to that, Stretch? Go ahead.
Once again, Taylor get it one day. And the majority of white people, believe it or not, a lot of white people I'm talking to are waking up. It's just a lot of these callers are very ignorant to truth, and they don't want to receive truth. But there's a lot of white people who I'm in connection with who call me on a daily, Stretch, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you're saying. And so I know that what I'm saying is true. I know what I'm saying is making a difference. And whether people agree with me or not, that's not here or there. At the end of the day, when they tell black people to look in the mirror, every time we try to look in the mirror means you're going to try to do for self, right? I'm going to try to take responsibility. I'm going to try to own up and be the best I can be. Somebody who's from a different community comes and crashes and smashes our mirror. So every time we looked in the mirror, we was looking in the mirror with Black Wall Street. What they do, bomb that. We looked in the mirror with Rosewood. What they do, bomb that. We looked in the mirror with King, Malcolm, Marcus Garvey. We've always looked in the mirror. Every time we've looked in the mirror, they have come, an oppressing group, an oppressor, to try to crash and crack our mirror. So we don't need to be told, look in the mirror.
Well, for the record,
those who have a history of doing violence to us, why would you tell the victim to look in the mirror? If I'm a girl and I get raped, you're not going to tell me look in the mirror. If I'm a wife and my husband's beating on me, you're not going to tell me look in the mirror.
Not every African.
Why would you tell the victim to look in the mirror?
I understand.
As a whole, black people are victims.
I understand your
of
point.
Americanism. How am I going to look? How is the victim going to look in the mirror?
I understand your point. I don't think every African American has been raped. I don't think every African American has been the victim of physical violence.
As a whole, we've been raped. I would never say every. Let me make that clear. When I make statements, it's not every. You have good and bad and everything. Dr. King was a Christian. Ku Klux Klan are Christians.
There are many African Americans in society that have done very well for themselves.
Individual, but I'm not into self. I'm into others, and we have to get to that point where we stop focusing on
but hold on,
doing for ourselves and doing for other people.
And we'll take some more phone calls at 702-257-5396. You think it's healthy for African Americans to always consider themselves as victims? You think that's a positive frame of mind that'll get them far in society?
To be a victim doesn't mean that you want to stay a victim. See, like I said before, if you shoot me in my arm, before you give me anything, you have to first take the bullet out. You have to heal that wound.
Yeah.
You're not going to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. You're going to take the bullet out, heal that wound, wash it up, and stitch it up. So what black people are doing, we're saying, hey, we've been shot, and we're not expecting no other group to heal us. Other groups are responsible of being a part of giving us what we need for our healing, like reparations. But at the end of the day, whether we get reparations or not, we're going to be all right because we're looking in the mirror. Every time we've looked in the mirror, walking down the street, driving our vehicles, minding our business, we've always had trouble come to us. So what I'm saying is we don't need to be told to look in the mirror. Black people have always been peaceful as a whole. And for those blacks who are not peaceful individually, it's because, like Malcolm X said, who taught you to hate yourself? And I'm asking that our white family to call in, listen to understand and don't listen to respond. Many of us, we listen to come with a rebuttal, and we're not taking in what I'm saying. 90% of people that call on this show, they're not listening because they're saying the complete opposite of what I'm saying.
I can only speak for myself. I'm listening to what you're saying. I don't agree with everything you're saying.
But there are times that you, too, listen to respond, not to understand.
Perhaps, but it's my job to respond because I do a radio show. But at the same time, I personally do not always agree with the things. I think I'm not as extreme with my opinions as you are. I certainly believe that there's racism out there. I believe there are victims of racism. There's no question, just like I would say there are victims of anti-Semitism.
Right.
And I wish there were not those people on the planet Earth. I'm not willing to say every police officer is a racist. I'm not willing to say every white person is a racist.
I agree.
I'm not willing to make those statements.
I've never made those statements.
But you did say that every president has been a racist.
Yeah.
You said that today on the show, and I don't agree with that. But hey, let's see what they think out there. 702-257-5396. But if I wasn't willing to listen to you, then I certainly would not invite you on the show every week. Let's go to Otis. Otis, you are next up on the Vegas Take. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Otis?
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, you're good, Otis.
Oh, okay. Listen, a lot of people don't want to hear this here, but I just got to let you know. Every species has a natural enemy. Every dog does not get along. Every cat does not get along. Every lion does not get along just because they're lion. And with humans, our natural enemy, and I know you don't want to hear this, is the white man and has always been the white man to the black man. You will never see it the way that any black man, you may agree on some points and some things, but you will never, ever agree totally with the pain and the suffering that we go through on a daily basis.
So, Otis, can I ask you a question? Because obviously I am
also a modern day.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm also a modern day slave. I've been in that slave system, that penal system, okay? When Bill Clinton was running around here with his rules and his laws with his wife up under him, okay, we suffered. We went to the legal libraries every single day because we was tired of watching white guys get out of prison on the same charges that we were in there on.
Listen, I think that is a systemic, Otis, that is a systemic problem. Hold on, keep him on the line for a second. I'm whiter than white, Otis, so I guess I am the perfect person for you to talk to. You think I'm your enemy? Me personally now. I'm talking about an individual like myself.
I'm not going to say every single white person because every single white person is not of the devilish nature.
Of course not. Of course not. Just like I would say not every African American is racist either.
On an everyday basis, getting along, trying to do things, trying to live life, we don't control nothing, man. Okay?
I agree.
And we have to abide by certain things. I mean, you control your radio show. I mean, man, you've had it out before, different conversation now. You control your radio show just like I control mine. I have a talk show also.
Okay, but how do you say no African Americans have never been in control when our last president was an African American? I don't understand that.
Of nothing. He was a puppet.
He was the president of the United States.
You can put whatever title you want.
Well, I'm not putting a title on it. He was the leader of the free world.
He didn't pass one agenda for his own people.
That's not true.
That is true.
Okay, well, who would you blame for that?
Is true.
So you blame. So why?
Giving somebody $500 extra dollars on the taxes.
So you blame the individual then. So you didn't. Okay, so you didn't like Barack Obama's policies. That's fair.
I don't like nothing about Barack Obama.
Okay, fine. I didn't like some of the things that Barack Obama did either, but I have respect for him.
Got anything on the line, anything going on, any kind of intelligence has to admit it. Barack Obama wasn't nothing.
No, I'm not.
I'm not. He should have been an asset to the black community.
Listen, I agree with you that, and by the way, Otis, I appreciate the phone call. Good to hear from you. I agree with you that President Barack Obama did not help race relations. He could have done more for the African American community. I would say Bill Clinton did more for the African American community than Barack Obama did. But you know what? We're talking about policy, and to talk about Obama, I think as a human being, he's a good man, who's a good father, good husband, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Barack Obama because here's an African American who started with nothing in his life, and he ended up being the president of the United States. If he can do it, then anybody can, in my personal opinion.
If I could just piggyback on Otis, I definitely appreciate Otis for calling. I think what Otis is trying to say is that our enemy is indeed white supremacy. That's our enemy.
That's everybody's enemy. It's my enemy too.
You speak for you.
I'm Jewish.
You speak for you. But I'm just saying, our enemy is white supremacy.
Of course.
Every white man that comes around me is not necessarily my enemy.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
But I hope so. But that's how all black people feel. And I'm not the spokesperson for black people. So when I say y'all, I could be wrong.
That would be a horrible way of thinking.
But what I'm saying is we also understand what has caused our condition. And unfortunately, what the white family has to understand is it's not a debate. When we state what we
How about parenting? How about fathers and mothers? Do they not condition
when we
you?
state what has happened to our condition, it's not for people. Well, I don't agree with that. You don't have to agree with it. You're not black. And so when people say look in the mirror, it's easy to say look in the mirror when your mirror is shiny. It's easy to say look in the mirror when your mirror is hanging up, posted, got diamonds on it, flowers around it, crystals on it, rhinestones on it. Your mirror is looking good. You got window spray, two type of window sprays.
But you mentioned conditioning.
We don't even have a window. Well, I'm looking at concrete.
Listen, I looked in the mirror last night.
I'm going to look in the mirror and you have a mirror.
Listen, I looked in the mirror last night and I saw an obese white man that needs to lose 40 pounds that needs to get some plastic surgery. Okay,
but you're talking about a physical mirror, but I'm saying a hypothetical mirror. We don't even have a mirror.
That's another story for another show.
Give me a mirror looking.
All right. Well, let's take some more phone calls. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Devin. Devin, you are next up on the Vegas Take. You're on with the minister. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I hate when I miss the show. I love it. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
You, the host, for
we're grateful
having him on there.
We're grateful for you, too. We appreciate that. Thank you.
So one of the things that you guys just brought up, you said, as Stretch was talking about something, you said, I'm against white supremacy, too. I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
Right? One of the challenges is that, but in America, Jewish gets to be white.
Blood and Jews will not replace us, blood and soil. That is what they were chanting in Charlottesville.
True, but understand, if the average person looked at you, they would not know that you were Jew.
I agree.
Until they maybe got your last name.
I agree.
Or you disclose that, right? So you get to affectionately be white.
You're absolutely right about that. And point taken, where if you're in a store or you're just out and about,
exactly.
you're right. A white supremacist can easily spot you out over somebody like me. I totally agree with what you're saying. I guess what I'm trying to say is I hate white supremacy just as much as you do. That's those 22 people that died in that Walmart in Texas, El Paso. Those were Americans, and some bastard white supremacists went in there and executed them. There were white people, black people, all sorts of different people in that Walmart.
Sure.
That's the only point I'm trying to make.
I know, and I get that, right? But I don't want to spoil my second on this because I want to really go to the other
go
point.
ahead. Yep.
Is that when we look at, let's say, crime, right? We know for certain, this is from the FBI themselves, historically, again, people that we revere now, Dr. King, even Malcolm X, they were known, they were called and labeled as terrorists, right, historically, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we say historically, that's in the lifetime of my grandparents. I was born 10 years after Dr. King died. So it's not truly historically. That's in people that are living. That's in this lifetime. Right?
Yep.
So I think that when we look at the progression of America, I think that we're rushing past the ills and the sicknesses as we've truly never been able to, and Stretch always talks about, let's just speak on the truth. We never have been able to truly diagnose the actual patient in a full-scale examination because we're saying, hurry up. You know how, like, when you work for someone, sometimes your employer, they want you to just work. They don't care if you're sick or not. They just need that production out of you. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. Yeah, I do.
Right. We've never been able to truly diagnose the patient in order to accurately prescribe what is needed for that patient to heal, right? So we're saying, just move forward, hurry up, get back out there. You know, when I was growing up, and if I no matter what happened to me, my mom or dad would say, you know what, just take some aspirin, you'll be okay. I could have had a broken ankle. They thought aspirin would heal everything, right?
Yes.
They were rushing me to get back well. And I'm saying that the problem when we look at disproportionate crime rates and statistics and stuff, we have to understand that the patrolling aspect, there are more patrolling that goes on in black neighborhoods or minority neighborhoods than there are white neighborhoods.
Well,
so
Devin,
yeah.
I understand. And by the way, I have to get to some other callers. I appreciate
Thanks for the time.
I appreciate your perspective and I appreciate your phone call. Listen, I think there are a number of different reasons why there might be more patrolling in some African American neighborhoods. I think it has to do with crime. I would hope it doesn't have to do with color. Stretch, what would you say to that?
Well, I would say that I agree with everything Devin's saying, that basically what we're trying to drive home is that there is systems that are in place that plague us, that cause us to behave a certain way as a black community. Secondly, what we have to understand is that no community can be compared to the black community as far as suffering on American soil is concerned, because we have endured the worst and the most. And so when you take a people, we have to understand Africans were kidnapped. Like, that's huge. Putting somebody in shackles, forcing them to come to another land to do free labor. And for years, we work for free. And so if we're working for free, who's getting that money? And we have to also understand, too, when you say, as a white person, that you're against white supremacy, I agree with you. I believe that could be true. But also understand, Jews participated in the slave trade. A lot of Jews who are economically successful in America is because they also own slaves.
So why can't we
Catholics
just say it
own
like
slaves, Jews own
why
slaves,
can't we just hold people?
White own slaves.
So why can't we just hold people accountable today? Why does it have to be about 400 years ago? If somebody is Jewish and they are racist or they commit a crime or a hate crime, I want to put them in jail for the rest of their lives. I want to call out these evil people that are racist because I believe racism is ignorance and hate. And listen, why can't we just hold people accountable for today? Why do we have to talk about what took place 400 years ago? I feel zero guilt. While I feel horrible for those people, those African Americans that had to endure slavery, I know in my heart that I had absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's why I feel no guilt about it. I feel horrible about what happened on 9/11. I feel horrible that 3,000 innocent people lost their lives and that bastard Osama bin Laden was the mastermind behind it. But why should a good Muslim feel guilt over that if they had absolutely nothing to do with it? That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, you can't heal with being forgetful. In order to heal, you have to remember, because how are you going to heal if you don't know what you're healing?
You can remember without feeling guilty. A white person could feel horrible about what happened to African Americans back in the day, but also say, listen, I was not responsible for it. My family was not responsible for it, so don't try to make me feel guilty. I treat you equal as I would anyone else. What's wrong with that?
I don't think that black people try to make white people feel guilty.
Oh,
I think that black people try to hold people accountable.
I think
white people naturally feel guilty because white people have a problem with accepting responsibility of what they suffered on us or what we have suffered from the hands of white people.
You don't think that some African Americans try to make white people feel guilty for slavery?
I can't make you feel guilty for something that your people or your relatives or your neighbors' relatives did to my people. It's not making you feel guilty. It's just the fact that the white community has to understand it's not about feeling guilty. It's not about blaming.
And feeling guilty
it's
are two
about
different things.
Taking accountability. But the white masses don't want to take accountability.
Well, Farrakhan didn't
because
he
you
say
want us
that
to forget what happened. But you
Farrakhan-
never tell Jews to forget. They even made a Holocaust museum on American soil.
I'm going to be completely
the
honest with you.
Holocaust didn't happen in America. Name a slavery museum in America. You can't name one because our history is always being told by us to forget it. We can't forget our history.
I'm going to be completely honest with you, and there's probably a lot of Jewish people that are going to be upset at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. On a daily basis, I never think about the Holocaust. Even when I walk into a synagogue, which is very rare because I'm not a very religious person, I don't think about the Holocaust. You know what I think about? What am I doing today? What can I do to be a better person today? How can I succeed today? How can I do a better radio show? Now, I understand I'm not African American. I am not trying to compare myself to you or maybe the struggles that you've had to go through because of the color of your skin. But the point I'm trying to make is this. I don't preach every day about the Holocaust. I don't try to make Germans feel bad about what happened years ago and when 7 million Jews died. I don't think about it. I decide not. Now, does it mean I forget? No, of course not. But at the same time, I don't choose to think about 7 million Jews, including Jewish people, being thrown in ovens and murdered. I'm not. I choose not to because you know why? Because I believe it'll bring me down and it'll ruin not only my mood, but it'll hurt me as far as being a successful human being. And I personally believe if African Americans on a daily basis, if all they want to think about is slavery and how white people should feel guilty, I know you're not saying that, but some do, how white people should feel guilty for something that happened 400 years ago, I believe it is going to bring people like you down. I truly believe that, Stretch.
But no black person thinks about slavery in a sense of, slavery. No, what we're doing is every time we try to succeed, we understand there's a roadblock. And in order for us to move that roadblock, we have to trace back the roots and trace back the history to see what has caused this, what has produced this effect. Unfortunately, slavery, Jim Crow are the causes of that. So no black person, I'll tell you from a black perspective, we're not harping on slavery. What we're doing is we're recognizing that in order for us to change our conditions as a people, we have to do an x-ray. We have to do a CAT scan. We have to examine our behavior and also hold those accountable who put us in a position to behave less than human.
I have a favor to ask of you, Stretch. Our phone lines are full right now. We have a lot of people that want to talk to you.
Unfortunately, I do have to go.
Oh, man. How about 10 minutes? Can I get you for 10 minutes?
I do. I can't. I
How about 10 minutes?
I can't stay later this time. Time. But my message to them is understand that. Go back. You know, the videos that you record, they're on YouTube, and get an understanding of what I'm saying. Because most people are going to call. They want to argue. I don't come on here to argue. I don't come on here to debate. I come on here to teach. Period. This platform is something that I'm using to teach people in general on how we can heal and reconcile. I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to argue, and I hope that we take those words that I put out.
Fair enough, and we always will give you a platform to share your opinions and your thoughts, and I always appreciate it when you take the time to come in, and even though we don't always agree on everything, although I think we do have some common ground, there's no question, we always appreciate it when you take some time to call in, and I will take the calls coming on the other side, so while you're in your car, you will be able to listen to some of the calls that I'm going to take. We got Brian. We got even Ken Thompson on the line. Tony K. We'll take all your phone calls, 257-5396 when we come back. Stretch, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good day, Stretch. We'll be back right after this.